Hello again to all audience. This is the third part of the series where we have Dr. Peter Shepherd, who has shared with us wonderful insights about this instrument CPP. What is the self-discovery about yourself, understanding more, and also understanding the difference between traits, uh, aptitudes, temperaments, and what drives you. So interestingly, the last session we have a question. Can these traits or personality change, Dr. Peter?
All right. Thanks, Leo. Yeah, this is one of the most common questions.
Yeah, because people likes to change or
Can I
wants to
change my personality? Or
Yes.
can I change my traits? So the answer is a bit of a mixed one. It can be yes to a certain extent, but if the trait is very strongly genetic, what we say is it's literally hardwired, it's in there at the more like almost the instinctive level, very unlikely to change. Now we can modify it, we can moderate it. What we can do is we can change our behavior, but the trait itself won't go away. It's always there. And perhaps I use the example where I was talking about my daughters earlier on. And I think this brings in the idea of over a period of time, we can modify, we can strengthen, and we can lessen some of the traits consciously. But the moment we go into our instinctive limbic or even into what's called our reptilian self, then what we'll often use that word, the true colors come out. And talking about colors, I also want, in a moment, I will talk about the card game we have where we have all these traits in colors. But what tends to happen is the first phase of our maturation is around puberty. And so abstract conceptual thinking and things like this is less common among people at ages maybe 8, 9, 10. But when they reach puberty, there are changes in the brain and physiological changes. And so then we find we get into the teens. And part of those changes that take place are hormonal changes. Now, hormones are actually what cause behavior, not genes. Genes, think of them as more like switches that turn on and turn off the chemicals. So when we, get stressed and we react to stress, a hormone called cortisol comes in to our body. Or when we're doing something where we're like very excited and passionate about, the excitement hormone called dopamine comes in. But when we're very quiet and relaxed and maybe just lying back, listening to some lovely soft music or lying under the tree, listening to the birds, then serotonin, which is another hormone, comes in. Now, the main thing is all these hormones are controlled by the genes, but they need a trigger from outside. So the stimulus it has to be there. So people just don't get angry for no reason at all. So the stimulus makes the person angry or stressed. Then the genetic factor kicks in and we become more maybe aggressive or loud or whatever it might be. Or I go back to my 2 daughters. When she is stressed or under some sort of a pressure, the emotional brain pumps a lot more dopamine and then later maybe some cortisol into the brain, and she becomes a raging bull, if I can use that expression. So we got to realize that our behavior changes situationally depending on the stimulus, but the degree to which we change, linking back to our traits, um, have the genetic background, but realizing that genes turn on and off hormones, which actually trigger those types of behavior. Now that can all be a bit complex, um, but that's in the early part. So when we're in the mid-teens, we know that the hormones are raging, and 1 minute we can be up and the next minute down, and very erratic,
Rebellious stage.
rebellious, and so on. As we move into late teens, early 20s, what we call a maturation phase comes in, and we mellow a little bit more. Now, to a certain extent, we maybe have used experience, external pressure, things that
Techniques.
people have said, and then we learn techniques to control ourselves. If I use the example, as I said, my wife is more introverted, and so she's not the person who jumps up on the stage and rah rah and so on. But if she's very excited and passionate about a topic, her voice can get louder, she can get more excited, she can get more carried away. And so then people say, but I thought you were an extrovert. So that's where actually we're an ambivert leaning towards a particular type of behavior because of the stimulus. Okay. But the moment that stimuli is not there, she'll go back to being her normal, natural, quiet, introverted self.
So what I'm
So she's learned skills like having to go on a Dale Carnegie course or join the Toastmasters organization to become a proficient public speaker. So when she is forced to go up on the stage, she's remembering all the learned, practiced skills. And her behavior is very skill-oriented, but it's not her natural self. So I'm not sure if that helps. I think that what I wanted to mention was, so when we do mature, and so if I think of my daughters, the one who is inclined to be more emotional and perhaps unstable or erratic, despite having three children, her maturation was fairly late. And it wasn't really until she was almost 28, 29 that she was mellowing enough and stabilizing and not that erratic self. But still, there's a spark that can light the fire. And you throw that spark in and she can still explode. Whereas the other daughter will never explode. So I'm not sure if that helps in terms of age and maturation. And I think what's important here, of course, is that if we have these traits and they're in us and we know they're there and they're strong, they're very useful for predictability. For like if I am hiring someone who needs to be more extroverted, more talkative, very gregarious, very social, outgoing, warm, friendly, those are all traits. And if they're important for the job, then that's good that I find, a candidate who has those traits. Whereas if I need someone who's got to seriously sit quietly at the PC, or scientists who've got to spend hours looking down a microscope, then they will need the more serious introverted traits. Because imagine that if our personality changed, we would never be able to predict who's the right person for a job, maybe even who's the right person to marry, because I married you for these qualities. Now, 10 years down the road, you're a changed person. So we might say God gave us these traits to be largely predictable, but usually only after that maturation process where we have stabilized by usually, for most people, the mid-20s.
So what I'm understanding is that it's not that there's a sudden change of personality. It's just the stimuli, the external stimuli that is different.
Yes.
And this stimuli will determine the behavior that we are exhibiting